In this video, we're going to go over the application and application sets on a Juniper SRX. So first, let's ask ourselves, what is an application set? What are they referring to? So an application is a system that would utilize a specific TCP, UDP, a protocol, and a port number. For example, if you were using SSH or Secure Shell, you'd be using TCP port 22. SendMail, SMTP, TCP port 25, or HTTPS, secure web server connection would be 443. So that's your applications. And then when they refer to the sets, that's a grouping of those. So that way you could group several different applications that require access and put them into one rule. So let's get into the configuration of this. So to start off with, let's do show applications, and you can see currently there's just one application configured, which is just a remote desktop RDP connection that's set up. So we're going to add some in here, and in this is where there are some built-in applications that the SRX already has that it's easy for you to define without having to create your own applications. So this is where you want to customize or use a application that is not currently defined, or in some situations I like to create my own, to have my own name and description in there, even though that it is already unavailable, such as SSH, TCP port 22. You could go in and assign that application without in your rules, without actually creating anything special. But I typically go in and create one. That way it's easier for me to combine and do application sets and have my defined applications for it. So there's multiple ways to do it, and just which way you feel comfortable. So the built-in ones, I'm going to throw in a command. All I did was I created, like I was going to create a policy with an application that's already existing without creating application set. And we talked about this, I think, when we were talking about the different zone configurations and how to apply applications there. But it's applicable for this as well. So you can see there's multiple applications that are already pre-existing in the SRX environment. So that's if you're going to create like an application within the zone to zone. So if you were wanting to create an application, and for example you wanted to create a application with an existing TCP port and information that's well known, you could create the set application and then name it whatever you want. So this is where if I was wanting to do, like I said, and do SSH or HTTPS, I could go in and create an application, name it whatever I wanted, in this case HTTPS access, and then the destination port, and this is where I would choose HTTPS. So in your menu you would see that it is already defined in here. So one of the advantages of doing this is that I could easily add descriptions to it. It could be to where, yes, I'm wanting to allow HTTP access, but I want it for a specific purpose. And so I could easily do that and give a description to it, so that way I could go back and reference it. So I could create that application, HTTPS, and then give it a description. And when I do that, and then I show applications, you see now that there is an application defined that we named HTTPS access with a description, and the destination is defined as HTTPS. So this is utilizing the existing applications that are defined within the SRX. But as most of the time, not all, as you can see, it's fairly limited. There's times where you have specific applications that require more specific ports. And so that is where it is easier to define your applications yourself and then put them in application sets, so that way you can apply them specific rules within your zones or even in your NAT rules. So you can do commands together, you know, like I did here, destination, description, and you could keep adding, but I'm going to use one command per line so it's easier to kind of track what I'm doing. So let's create a applications, and we're going to create multiple applications, and then we're going to create an application set to bring all those under one definition, so we can use that one application set in our rules that will encompass all the applications. And for this, I'm going to do it as a Gmail client. We want to allow our users to access Gmail. Well, Gmail's got multiple TCP ports that are required for that connection. So first I'm going to do is create my first application set, Gmail 1, description access port for Gmail client. So then underneath the same I'm going to now tell it's a protocol TCP. You can choose UDP, TCP, ICMP, depending on what you are requiring. So this is a way you can more limit it to a specific protocol. Then I'm going to define what port, TCP port, that this rule is going to apply to. So for this one, I'm going to say it's TCP and TCP port 993. Alright, I'm going to do that same exact step for 3 more. So it's exactly the same thing. Gmail 2, TCP port 587, port 465, and port 995, all TCP ports. And all these are required for Gmail client access. Alright, so now that we've got the 4 applications with their corresponding TCP ports, now we're going to create an application set. So it is in the same section as the set applications, but instead of just application, you're going to put application-set. So that's the differentiating factor to if it's an application versus an application set. We'll give it a name, so Gmail ports. So this is the name that we will refer to in the rest of the config to call this these applications up, or these TCP ports. Give it a description, easier to track and know exactly what you set this up for. And to me, that's an important thing whenever you're going back and wanting to review your config and you're not sure what is all, you know, those configs were made for, or why that you put them in. It's better to have some kind of description on it, even though right now it's obvious what it is, but later on when you're reading the config or trying to troubleshoot, it's good to have those references in there to more clarify what you put it in there for. Also, if you or have some application that is requiring these ports and you decommission it and remove it from service to go with some other solution, it's easier for you to go in here and go, okay, well, I need to remove these rules to clean up and get your network connection coming in and going out as locked down as possible to increase security. So it's easier to go in and see your rules that are relevant to that application and remove those. Alright, so now that we have created that application set and we've given a description, now we need to apply what applications that we're going to apply to it. So in this application set, Gmail ports, we're going to apply the application Gmail 1, which is what we named it up here. And we'll do the exact same thing for the other 3 applications that we created. Now that we have created that application set, we can now see our config shows the Gmail 1, 2, 3, and 4 as applications, and the application set Gmail ports has these applications assigned to it. So kind of to look at this and see the commands that we did, and you can always reference the commands whenever you're going back and creating some after you've created it. I know we talked about this in the show command video, but I want to bring it up again, that it's easy to do the show display set, which shows all these set commands that we used, and it's across all of the configuration. So you can see all those that we created in here, they're all listed. But as this config gets larger, it makes it more difficult if you're wanting to look at specific things. So whenever you do this application set, you can limit what you're actually displaying, so it brings down what you're actually viewing or what you're having to scroll through to a manageable set. So whenever you do the show pipe display set, add to it relative pipe match, so you're matching on, and then whatever you want to match within the config. I mean, you could put here is applications, so when we do that, you can see it's only showing the stuff that has applications associated with it. We could do the same command and do, say, zone, and it's all going to show us everything that has zone in the config related to it. So that is an important and good tool to use when you're trying to review your config or go back and go, how did I make that before? And you can easily go through and look at the config commands or set commands that were used to be able to easily figure that out. So the other thing I want to do is I want to do show security zones, and so we already did these and created these in our zone video, so I'm not going to go over that, but for the next commands I'm going to show you how we're going to apply these application sets within the config. There's a few known variables that need to be known, and one thing that we've got in here is we've already defined the Gmail servers. Right? So we're going to create a rule that is going to allow these applications, these TCP ports, to go out, but to more pinhole our network, we're going to also define the exact servers. And so that's where the known value that we're going to use is Gmail servers, which we've already defined in the previous video. If you haven't watched that, that would be a good video to watch, to how we create these address and address books and address sets to use them within the config, just as we are with these application sets. So that's where we need to know whenever we refer to Gmail servers in the config that we're going to create, this is where it's pulling it from. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to create a policy that is going to go from our trust to our untrust. So we want our users to be able to get to the Gmail servers on these ports. So we're going to create a set security policy from the trust zone, which is our internal local network, to our untrust zone, which is our external or WAN network. We're going to name the policy Gmail, and we're going to match on source any. So this means from any IP or network that is on our trust zone, which we've defined, anything that's on our trust zone. So this will allow anybody that's on our internal network to utilize this policy. Now we need to match on destination, and this is where it comes back where I was referring to the Gmail servers. So we're going to set a policy from trust to untrust, policy Gmail, and we're going to match the destination address. So where is it going to? So this rule will only apply for anybody on our network that is going to only these Gmail servers, which we have defined here. So any of these servers and these networks will this rule apply. Alright, now this is where we're going to do our applications. So now we're defining from where to where and what can they utilize. So they can use the application Gmail ports, which is what we created. So those TCP ports, those 4 TCP ports that we created, that application set, now we're going to define that they can use that applications. And so the next step is as we do with any policy, we've got to say, if it matches this rule, what do we do then? And of course with this we want to permit. So the same policy Gmail, if it matches this policy from any internal to to these servers on the untrust, utilizing these specific ports, we're going to permit. And then we're going to use our same display set for the policy. Kind of see the commands that we've entered. So you can see those commands. So if we do show not policy. Oh, let's just show run, and we can kind of go through and see the various things. Because you can use these commands like we did in the NAT, and you can do them in policy. So you can see in the policy where we have created and we utilize the existing Junos SRX built in to define on this policy. We have our specific one where we have defined that grouping and we have permitted it. So that's how you are able to not only create the applications and the application sets, but how you would apply those within the existing config. Hopefully you found this informative, and I appreciate your time.